Hey folks, my name is Ravish and welcome back to another video in the series of DevOps real-time interviews. Now, we have a profile with us today. Now, this person is having around 5 years of experience in IT and 2 years of experience in DevOps and cloud-related services. We have concentrated only on Kubernetes in this interview. This is an excerpt of a larger interview and we have concentrated for around 25 to 30 minutes in this Kubernetes part, and all the questions would be on Kubernetes, and I have given my answers as well. What do I think if someone would have asked me the same question? All right, so that's about it. Also, please, I would request again that kindly subscribe to the channel because that would really support me to create more content like this. And if you're seeing this video on any other platform like Twitter, Instagram, or any other platform, do check out the comments section, the pinned comment, or in the description for the full video. All right, so without further ado, let's get started. I'll start with very basics. We have a Kubernetes pod, right? Okay. When we say that we have to compare it with a Docker container, how it is different from a Docker container?
Can you repeat, please?
Okay, so what is the difference between a Kubernetes pod and a Docker container?
Okay, Kubernetes pod, it's capable of containing more than one container. It's an encapsulation of a set of containers. It's going from one container up to n. We can control additional parameters such as resource provisioning, scaling, conditions. It's like an encapsulation of a set of containers that provide us many configuration options and parameters and capabilities. That is about in comparison.
Okay, and how is it different from Docker container?
Docker container it's a process encapsulation, and it doesn't too much capabilities in comparison with Kubernetes pod.
Okay. A brief point for the same question would be like, when you have a Kubernetes pod, you can define it as the smallest deployable unit in Kubernetes. Okay, and it represents as a single unit of a process in a big cluster. Okay. The thing is, it can contain one or more containers and they share the same network namespace. And the key difference from the Docker container is that this Kubernetes pod can host multiple containers that share the same network and the storage. If you want to take an example, you might have a pod with 2, 3, 4 containers. So one container could be running a web server, and other one could be a sidecar, or other one could be an application or something. So this is the key difference. Okay. Okay. So when we talk about Kubernetes, there is something known as Init Container. Have you heard about it?
Yep, it's a starting container in the process of creation of a pod. Before create the main container for we can to program a init container process that is setting something or make some configuration or initial required process before starting the container. I don't know, web server or
okay.
Any container.
When does it run, this init container?
When the pod is created, before the container is created. the container that is not the init container. The init container is the first container when pod is created.
Okay. So basically, init container comes before the main application containers in a pod.
Exactly, the
When
main
you
application.
ask like why is it used for, do you know like why do we use it?
Can you repeat, please?
Why do we use this in init container?
I don't understand the pronunciation.
Okay. So my question was, what was the purpose of init container in Kubernetes, and
Ah,
when do you use it?
when okay, if we, for example, I deploy a database with, no, I don't know, CouchDB with 3 nodes, and we need to do some configurations or tag a certain file with certain configuration or certain node with certain labels or any task, little or medium or I need this task or this process is executed before the main application or the main container is created in the pod. In other case, the main application can fail at starting or in the runtime. I don't know. So in this case, I can create an init container that perform the specific task that I require for the main application or the main container works as expected.
Okay, yeah, correct. So since you took an example of database, so you can say that a real-time scenario would be using an init container to perform database schema migrations before the main application starts. So
Okay,
that would be
good.
um, so Kubernetes has this stateful sets, right? So when you would choose stateful set instead of a deployment.
When we have that the containers, the set of containers, we need to create in a specific order, and the name that assigned to these containers is maintained after delete them. A stateful set create the containers in order 0, 1, 2, 3, 2, n. And when deletes the container, it deletes from the latest n minus 1, and up to 0 or 1 container created. So I have experience with the stateful set because the scenario that I mentioned with CouchDB it was a real scenario in my life. So we use a stateful set because we need that the nodes that compose our database cluster, we need to that the nodes has the same name, because we do specific tasks to specific nodes, for example, or the endpoint was construct with the name of the node. So we need we need to, this name was not changed. So that's the stateful set works. In this case, a difference that a deployment or daemon sets or another controller.
Okay, you're correct about the order of deployment. It guarantees the deployment and scaling about the order. Uh, when you ask like why do we need stateful set, they are generally used for stateful applications that generally require stable storage. Persistent storage is the right word, and network identities. For example, databases like PostgreSQL or MySQL and RabbitMQ, which is a message broker, where each instance has a unique identity and they require stable storage. So, yeah, and when you talk about the deployments part, I think they're used for applications that are stateless in nature, that can scale horizontally, not
Yes.
vertically.
Good. Thanks.
So, we have config map and secrets, right? And
Yes.
we use them for different scenarios. So, how do they differ with each other? And if you can provide a use case for each one of them, that would be good.
Okay. To remember config maps and secrets. Config maps that are a mapping of a key value variable that is not a secret. It's I don't know, a URL or a name of a certain component. Something that is not a secret. We can do a store in a config map and inject into a pod or into a container inside a pod. Secrets, by the other hand, is a secret, like his name, but it's not specifically a secret. It's not so secure because it's codified in base 64. So exist another solutions for perform real secrets in Kubernetes. So that's the main difference.
Okay,
Because
correct about config maps. They are key value pairs, and this can be consumed by pods as environment variables, or you can mount them as a file in
environment
volume
variable.
as well. Uh, on the context of secrets, they are close to config maps. I mean, like them, but their purpose is to hide the sensitive data like API keys and passwords, because I think they are base 64 encoded. Not sure, but I think they are base 64 encoded. If you talk about an example of it, config map could be used for storing application configuration like database strings, connection strings basically. And
Correct
for
answer.
secrets, you can store API keys for external services. So, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so in the current project, if you're using Kubernetes, what are the deployment strategies you folks are using?
In my current job,
Hmm.
it's not a so sophisticated strategy. Our application is not in front of many users, so we have 10 users. So we don't need to sophisticate, and we don't have the time to implement too. But the strategy we perform now is deploy the changes to a staging environment. Once the testing and two is correct in staging, we do a pull request to a prod environment, and they perform the CI/CD process. And when all is good and check approve to merge, we merge, and the prod environment is updated with the API gateway endpoints too. That's a real simple.
Okay, so have you ever heard about any deployment strategies like rolling update, blue green?
Yes.
What is the difference between both of them, rolling update and blue green?
Rolling update with Kubernetes.
You can explain in terms of Kubernetes, pod
Okay.
basically.
Okay. Well, first, I don't have too much experience with different types of release or deployment process. I study I read about this, but I don't have a real experience that where I need to implement. So I can to talk about some strategies, but it's um, to do for me. Okay, rolling update. I remember that.
Okay, I'll try to make it easier for you. If you have to replace an old pod with new ones, does it fall under blue, green, or rolling?
Can you repeat, please?
If you if you are replacing old pods with new ones,
Uh-huh.
does it fall under blue, green, or rolling update?
Rolling update.
Okay. And on the other hand, what is blue, green?
I think that blue green is to deploy a percentage or not all the pods. We can to subdivide it. 30% is going to update, and the remaining 70 is with the previous version. So we test that the 30% updated is worked as expected, and after validate, we deploy the rest of the remaining post. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you have two separate environments. Like one can be called as blue, the other one can be called as green. You have to switch traffic between them, something like that.
Okay.
Okay,
Thanks.
can you tell me about one advantage of either of rolling update uh, or of blue green? Any advantage or disadvantage?
Can you repeat, please?
Any advantage or disadvantage of rolling
Okay.
update or
Rolling update is to deploy all pod, update all pods at the same time. Yes. Okay. So if we introduce some error or some issue, we all the users of the application have impacted and perform issues with the application. So this is a disadvantage because we don't want this scenario. We want to minimize the errors on the client side or the user side. So the blue-green, for the other hand, if we introduce some issue or some error, it's a percentage of the final users that interact with this version of the application with errors or issues. So it's not the total world of users using our application. It's only a portion. So it's improve over the rolling update strategy. Yes.
one advantage of rolling update because is like it use minimal resources, but the time is like it takes longer to complete. When you talk about blue green, it's a quick rollback, but extra resources are required, and this increases complexity because you have to maintain blue and green two environments.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, so you have worked on RBAC, right? Role based access control in Kubernetes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, right?
I
Okay.
don't understand the question.
Role-based access control, RBAC.
Uh-huh.
You worked on it, right?
Yep.
Okay. So how would you set up an RBAC for a user or a service account?
I don't remember specifically how to perform these tasks, but I don't remember the name of the resource of Kubernetes that managed the service account. Service account, maybe? I don't know, but I need to create the resource service account, for example, and after assign this service account to a specific user through another resource, if I remember well. I need a Google to remember the names of the resources, but the process it's like that I mentioned.
Okay.
Config, I don't remember.
Okay. What exactly is a multi-tenant cluster?
Multi-tenant cluster. In terms of Kubernetes,
Yes.
yes. I think that it's a cluster with multiple clients.
Okay.
I'm not working with multi-tenant cluster.
Okay. Then we can skip it. Not an issue.
Okay.
Have you ever used HPA, horizontal pod scaling, in your project? Are you doing it? Or anyone?
Yes. In my previous work job, I implement the vertical pod autoscaler. I in that time, vertical pod autoscaler is or was a beta feature of Kubernetes. I don't know the actual state because I'm not looking on these days, but yes, vertical pod autoscaler. I know that basically increase the CPU and memory based on the resources in a time window metric. The big issue with this implementation is that the default parameters windows is very longer in the PPA implementation in Kubernetes. So it was not trivial for me to understand. I need I review the code, the source code of BPI Kubernetes, and determine where is or where are these parameters, and setting up in the implementation. So we I decrease the time window so we can to perform a quick response over a minute if a pod is consuming more resources in a time lapse of 10 minutes. Quickly vertical autoscaling, not in a time of a day. I remember that is a day, the metrics that vertical pod autoscaler looks, so it's not so quick, the default implementation. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. When we talk about Kubernetes, there are generally two strategies. Let's say rolling back and rolling forward for deployment. Uh, can you explain me like when would we use what and why?
Don't remember the difference.
Okay, I'll help you out. See if that rings a bell. So rolling back is basically when there is an issue with new deployment. So you have done some sort of new deployment and there is an issue.
Ah,
Then you want
okay.
to revert to the previous version. That's rolling back.
Okay. Rolling back. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you talk about a command, I think you can use kubectl rollout undo. Uh,
Uh-huh.
I think that's the command.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, did it ring a bell? What is rolling forward now? If you,
What
if,
is
if you want to take a guess, what would you take a guess at rolling forward?
um? I don't understand the question.
So we have rolling back and rolling forward strategies. So rolling back is when there is an issue with a new deployment, then you roll it back, and
Okay. I think that when we're rolling back to an early version of our project, after we can to rolling forward to a next version. I don't know if we rolling back to a three steps version for some scenario. We can to after rolling forward to another more recent version. I think that is. Mhm.
Rolling forward is basically when you apply any updates or patches incrementally. Uh, when you want to ensure that the transition between versions should be smooth, so that's when you roll forward. You would use rolling back in critical bugs, something that has come in the production. While
Mhm.
if you want to use rolling forward, it is for non-disruptive updates, something that does not affect a lot of people. So that's what it is.
Okay. Mhm.
Okay.